A 2 minute drill time. We are doing the finale of Alex versus Era. Episode 3 dropped November 20th on HBO. And we are continuing our coverage here with the great Justin Diaz is here. Justin, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I love being introduced as the great Justin Diaz. That's
Yeah.
no one's ever called me that, so that's nice. I'm good. How are
Clip
you?
that. You're doing good. You got to clip that for your comedy TikTok.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, the great Justin Diaz. Jeez, I need to come on here more.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, Justin, how's everything going?
Everything's great. Just I've been doing comedy as you mentioned. I've been posting stuff on Instagram. That's been fun. Still watching football as always. The Giants did their annual tradition of the season being over by week 5. So now I've just been paying attention to the league. It's been great having basketball back. I'm a huge Knicks fan. I'm off to a shaky start. And yeah, now you had me watching. I actually probably would not have watched this A-Rod doc if you didn't ask me to do this, or maybe it wouldn't have been a high on my priority list.
Yeah.
I am so grateful you asked me to do this because this documentary was way better than I expected. Like leaps and bounds better than I ever thought it would have been.
Yeah, because I remember I saw this. I saw the trailer. I'm like, this looks interesting. And then I flashed back to the Jeter documentary. I'm like, okay, like this Jeter one was basically Jeter is baseball Jesus, and nobody can do any wrong, and A-Rod sucks. That was the whole message I got from the documentary. This one, like, A-Rod was more compelling. A-Rod at least was willing to admit when he was a fuck up.
Exactly. I mean, A-Rod made way more mistakes, but than
Yeah.
Jeter and then a lot of people. So there was a lot more story there for him to own up to. Um, I think the thing with A-Rod when he was playing is he did give off the appearance of being phony. I loved A-Rod. I'm a huge Yankees fan. He was one of my favorite players. But just his public persona and him in the media, you always felt like he was putting on an act, like trying to impress people. So when I saw this documentary coming out, I'm like skeptical. Is he still going to be that guy? Is he still gonna, just kind of have a wall up where he's not really owning up to how he's feeling? Or try and that I did not get that impression from him at all. I don't know about you. I'd love to hear what you thought. I thought he was very honest, very transparent. I don't think he was bullshitting at all. Like he owned up to the mistakes he made. He acknowledged the challenges he had in life growing up, but it didn't feel like he was like saying, "Oh, woe is me." It was just, "Hey, this is how I grew up, and this is how I am, and if you don't like it, fuck off." Which
Yeah.
I'll let you respond. I just said a lot there.
Yeah, I think the thing I took away from this one is sort of like it's sort of like a journey of self-discovery for A-Rod going through this documentary and like learning like, okay, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, like this is why I did this wrong, and now I've made peace of my mistakes and become a better person from this experience. I think like that's the lesson I learned from this documentary. It was a nice like sort of journey to go through all three with A-Rod.
It really was. It was. I thought it was beautifully done. I got very emotional. I cry pretty easily in these things, so I definitely was crying there for a few moments. The stuff with, this him talking to a therapist with like doing the fake simulated conversation with his dad. That was really powerful stuff. It was just extremely well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Or so we are covering the last episode today, which covers basically the end of his Yankee career, a lot of the steroids stuff, like a little bit about how he's accepted he's not going to make the Hall of Fame. So I'll give you the floor. Where do you want to go first?
Yeah, I look, I want to say sorry I made you wait an extra day, but this is going to be the greatest thing either of us ever done. Like I took notes, you got little notes here.
Uh,
There's so many talking points. Where do we start? I actually, one thing that stuck out to me is the million different puns and nicknames people gave him throughout the years playing on A-Rod, and I actually wrote a bunch down. I want to see if you caught any other ones. We have Payrod with all the contract
Yeah.
stuff. Super, that's just corny as hell. And that whole thing, I could go on so many tangents. He got so much shit for taking a lot of money.
Oh, yes.
Like, what a joke.
Yeah.
He like what do you like what are your thoughts on that? Like that what were you did you that was
I laughed at this. It's like the thing that's like, I remember we talked about this like 2 weeks ago, Chris with Christopher Russo. Like we discussed this, like not Mad Dog Russo, like a different guy named Chris.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like I talked about it with him, and like it's like I have no problem taking the money. I think the thing he did not realize what he was into is that he was going to be like grilled at the time for take making the most money in professional sports, which remember 2001 times is much different than like 2025 times in terms of money.
100%. Yeah, I don't think he could have possibly expected the backlash. And like me and our friend Phil always joke about this. Like the, when a big time player hits free agency, they get asked, "What are you going to be looking for when you seek your new team?" And the answer is, if they were all being honest, is I'm going to get the most money I can. Like, and then if a bunch of teams offer the same money, then I'll make a decision based on family, location, winning, whatever. But very few people are going to take a massive pay cut for any reason. Like, so, and there's no shame in that. Like, I would do the same. Like, they have a extremely finite earning window, and their earnings go from 40, like a guy like A-Rod, tens of millions of dollars to then nothing. I mean, he finds other ways to make money, but they got to maximize. There's no shame in that. But then they all say, and A-Rod said, I want to win. And, I want to go to a winner. And then he goes to an awful team. So people then said, oh, you lied. It's like, okay. Like, he just said the politically correct thing. So that was a big tangent of mine, but I'll let you respond.
Yeah, I just think in terms of that, it's like be honest, dude. Like, let's like take the baseball out of it. Let's say like in our real life jobs, let's say you work for like a real estate firm. Like, let's say you like your firm, you're doing well, like, and then like the firm across town says, okay, we're gonna give you like a 3x raise on what you're making at firm A. Like, what person say, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna stay exactly where I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And nobody would say no to that. Do people lie to themselves and say, well, that's because I make, 100 grand, and 100 grand to 300 grand is such a big difference. It'd be life changing. But if I made 10 million and someone offered me 20, but then someone else offered me 40, I'd just take the 20 because it's somehow ethical and noble to take a pay cut to be on a winning team. But that's a lie. You would take the 40. You're not gonna leave $20 million on the table because that money is not going to anything a just cause. It's staying in the owner's pocket.
Yeah.
So,
It's not, yeah, it's just not like, it's just, I can understand, okay, maybe geography is a factor or something like, okay, I want
yeah,
to play out west, like, I'm going to take a little less to go to my preferred
sure.
geographical location. But like, if it's like, okay, like team A is offering me 7 million a year and team B is offering me 17 million a year, like, most of the time I'm taking the 17.
100%. And if you want to take less for whatever reasons you want to take less, that's your right. But it's not somehow wrong to take as much money as you can. So that's how I've always felt about that. Maybe when I was younger, like in high school, I was more immature about it because you want your players to stay. But now, like when you're an adult, if you get mad at another adult for taking the most money possible, you're a loser. There's
Yeah.
no other no other way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. So I think a couple of things I think that's stuck
Did
out.
we address that point enough?
I think we got it. Yeah. One thing that stuck out to me in this episode, I think I don't know if it was going to be the headlines. Obviously, the headlines would be the steroid stuff, but I did think it was interesting, like when he reveals to us when he goes to like his therapist's house, and the therapist has since passed away at
Yeah.
this point. Like it's Dr. Kevin, I believe is his name, right?
I no, it was Dr. David.
Oh,
I
Dr.
wrote that
Doctor.
was the first thing I wrote,
Yeah,
Dr. David Sport. I actually I wrote, when he first announced him, I
yeah,
thought I was a sports psychologist, but
okay.
then when they talked about it more, I mean, I don't know what distinguishes one from just a
Yeah.
non-psychologist, but that was fascinating. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the Dr. David stuff was definitely intriguing to me because like obviously like he's went through a lot because especially with, the divorce at that point in his career, like all the headlines, the steroid stuff going on here, like him being open enough to tell us like, hey, like I was messed up. I went to therapy to deal with this, and Dr. David really helped me. And like in fact, he went back there like to that house after Dr. David has since passed away. In fact, I think he passed in 2020, but like
Right.
seeing like him like, acknowledging like how much of an impact Dr. David had on his life was definitely very interesting.
Oh my God, that was amazing. I mean, that's a very personal thing, therapy and your journey in therapy. A lot of people don't want to admit that to their closest friends and family. He did it publicly, with a documentary millions are going to watch. So I was shocked at the candor there and very impressed and that he was vulnerable and owned up and not owned up to it. He didn't do anything wrong, that he admitted that publicly. And I give him a lot of credit for that. And yeah, that was a beautiful relationship. And it's hard not to make the analogy. Because if you could sum up this episode in 4 words, it would be Daddy, Daddy wasn't there. The Austin Powers song. I had to do that.
Yeah.
But seriously, there's a lot of focus on his dad not being around, and that the therapist kind of felt like it was a father figure to him.
Yeah, out of curiosity, did you like go back and watch the first two, or did you just watch the last one?
I watched the first one last night,
Yeah.
and I watched the second one today. I watched the second and third back to back today. So that honestly makes it. That's why I'm able to like recall all this
Yeah.
stuff specifically.
Yeah, because the first one they make the whole deal of his last time he actually sees his dad, that one series
Yeah.
in Minnesota, like where he has the
Yep.
best weekend of his life, and he basically is like, you know what, I want nothing to do with you ever again. So like that was like it's definitely the through line of all three episodes, like that, like him not having a relationship with his dad, sort of like really channeled him into baseball and want him to, made him want to be the best thing he ever could be at baseball, and sort of like basically like stunted a lot of his other relationships. He was so obsessed with the game.
You just said it beautifully. I totally agree. And he even said, he's like, if I had a dad, if I had my father growing up, I might not have been as good of a baseball player, but I'd probably not fuck up so much and be happier.
Yeah. Let's get to the steroids, is what I think the
Yeah.
big thing everyone's waiting for is, as I was like, we kind of didn't touch on the Texas stuff too much because it's sort of like, okay, acknowledged in 60 Minutes interview, like Katie Kirk, I think, mentioned it once, but like now we get the reveal like that he has this hip injury in 2010, and like he's like, okay, I'm gonna take HGH, try and get back on field because I felt bad about like making all this money and not contributing. And then it's interesting to see like how he sort of spirals like with the 211 and how he's trying to get this meeting with Bud Selig and like doubling down on his mistakes. So I do think like that was fascinating. See, like, yeah, I was wrong, but like I was just like so mad about like being singled out that I sort of like just like doubled down on the lie.
Yeah, no, you said it great. I mean, I remember when at those times, the when he tested positive that last time and the crazy court case and him playing, but because it was under appeal. I remember at that time thinking like this is a circus, this is so insane. As time passed, I forgot how crazy it was. Like at that time, like until I watched this documentary again, I was like, oh my God, yeah, that was a mess. That was like a national story. Like that's players taking steroids now. It doesn't reach the level of pop culture where like everyone's like, oh my God, did you hear Von Miller took steroids? Like, and I know A-Rod was a massive force and a public personality, but I don't know. It wouldn't have the same effect today, I don't think. Anyways, so yeah, it was interesting to hear him just own up to it, talk about it. I was wondering, I'm like, how much am I going to believe his reasoning? Because he can't lie anymore. So what's his reasoning going to be? I generally bought it that he just physically felt like crap and like just wanted to feel better and also contribute. And like he always wanted to live up to this lofty standard he set. So, whereas I know other people are skeptical and think, no, he's lying. He took steroids his whole career, like dating back to Seattle. But I don't know. Where do you land on that?
I think like I buy it, especially like when you like sort of look at this as sort of like he's made the point throughout the doc of like, okay, like I love baseball. My whole purpose is baseball. I go home and watch the West Coast games on the MLB package. And now like I'm just sitting on the sideline of baseball while I have this hip injury. And this guy says, hey, take this HGH, you'll get back on the field faster. And he's like, okay. Like, and I just want to get back on the field and like get back out there. I can buy that. I also see like the point of pride is like saying like, like because he had heard the rumors about the suspensions before it comes out. It's like, okay, like the bargain's okay, it's 50 games. Like I'm expecting that. Then he sees this 211, it sort of just bugs out. It's like, what? Why am I being singled out?
Yeah, no, I don't blame him for fighting it. He towards the end of the doc, they had his one of his attorneys on, the older guy,
Yeah,
Abbott, I think
yeah,
that was excellent. And it made me realize like that guy basically got him to stop refute. The guy said something, I wrote it down. It was stop treating it so seriously. You didn't commit a crime.
You broke a
And just
rule.
chill, like stop talking. A-Rod, I don't think he had anyone that was willing to say that to him at the beginning, or because he surrounded himself by his brother and a couple of friends, I think, and they all seemed like good guys, but they probably, I don't know if maybe they didn't feel comfortable calling him out on when he was being an ass, or maybe they were too close to him to see it clearly, or maybe he just didn't respect their opinion at the time. But he just, yeah, he didn't have anyone telling him stop, like this is you're making it way worse. Because if he didn't publicly lie so much that about it, I don't the backlash would not have been nearly as bad.
Yeah, because it's not only that, it's not the lying, it's like the interviews. And it's he basically says like he got triggered by Bud Selig because like he tried to get the meeting with Bud and like Bud didn't
Yep.
go to the arbitration hearing or whatever. And then like he gets mad at steroids announced. Like that's probably one of the stupidest things he ever did was he runs to WFA and goes on Mike Francesa's show and just spends like an hour lying about like the whole thing. And I know like they had the great clip where Mike's like, if you're lying, this is very bad for you. And he's got sitting there, you
Yeah.
see in his eyes, he's like he's just like so locked in that like he's not even
Yeah.
considering like what he's actually saying.
I know. I remember that interview happening and it just being like, hey, I want to believe him. I don't know. I don't know if I believed him or not. I probably did. I was very what's the word?
You were
Gullible, I guess, when it
you
came
were
to people
you were
I like.
inclined to side with A-Rod.
Yeah, I loved A-Rod. I also didn't care if he took steroids, so I'm like, whatever. So many people did it. I wrote down Bud Selig too, and there was I'll never forget this article. I have to send it to you. And what year was that? 2012, 2013?
2013.
The article is so good that I remember it to this day. It was written by a guy named Charles P. Pierce. He's a
Okay.
great writer. The book he wrote is Idiot America, amazing book if you haven't read it. But the article basically said how Bud Selig was basically gunning after A-Rod to make A-Rod the face of the steroid era
Yep.
because if A-Rod wasn't the face of the steroid era, then Bud Selig would be the face of the steroid era because you can't there, but it's foolish to say it's this one guy when there's Bonds, McGuire, Sosa, Luis Gonzalez. Like there was just all of these amazing guys doing it. But I think Bud Selig wanted to be able to say, "Look, I got A-Rod. I'm closing the book on steroids. I'm the guy who closed it." And I think there's a lot of arrogance in that. I the whole time I thought Bud Selig was dead, and then like, which I feel I'm not. I don't. That's not funny, but I just had in my head he had died. Um, but then like at the end it said like Bud Selig declined the request for interview. So I Googled it. I'm like, oh shit, he's still alive. He's 91, but he's still ticking.
Yeah,
I, I, I don't
he's
I
still
don't
kicking
like
out
it.
there.
Just this thinking about this makes me not like him, which might not be fair to him. I mean, he was in a tough
Yeah.
spot, but also he was part of the reason steroids went on for so long.
Yeah, it's like my issue with Bud is like obviously number one, like I get the point the league made that like if you're doing the active investigation, you can't be talking to the guy
Yeah.
like one on one. That I get, but like it's a bad look to me when like you're not showing up for the suspension hearing, but you're going on 60 Minutes doing an interview, like parading this out.
Yes, that hypocrisy bothered me a lot because it was like, oh, 60 Minutes. There's a easy chance for me to show my side where there's no one who could refute it. Yeah, I know it's the 60 Minutes journalist is supposed to refute and challenge him, but it's not the same as being in a court of law. Um, so yeah, I thought that was hypocritical and honestly kind of cowardly of him. But I'm sure it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's also it's like one of those things. Like I said last week when I talked to Joe Chaffee, our buddy, like about this episode. It's like for me, it's like they lost the moral high ground on the steroid guys not being in the Hall of Fame when Bud got in. I think as soon as Bud goes in, everybody goes in with him, in my opinion.
100%. Dude, I forgot Bud Selig was in the Hall of Fame. That bothers me a lot.
Yeah,
That's a joke.
yeah,
Barry Bonds, the greatest player of all time, not in because he took steroids. Bud Selig held an administrative position where he got millions of dollars just to run the league, whatever the hell that means. Like, just like, yeah, what a tough job. It is a hard job because they have to deal with all the BS. But I mean, he made mistakes too, and he didn't play. We care more about the players. Nobody gets to the stadium and shows their kid, hey, Rob Manfred seeing over all of this, right? Like my 6-year-old kid, Rob Manfred. You'll remember that name. Like, give me a break. I hate these people. I didn't realize that they're such hypocrites and losers.
Yeah, I mean,
Put everyone in the Hall of Fame. We got to clip that, and that's going to be on his campaign commercial.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, like Bud did do a lot of things to help the game, whether it was, expanding the postseason, having some form of revenue sharing brought in. Like that stuff is good. That helped the game.
Well, I mean, that increased revenue, yes, and it helped the players tremendously. It's
But
it's tricky when you say help made the game better because I mean those things help. Yeah, if you put more money in the game, it's going to make the game better. It's going to get more eyeballs on the game. That's fair. He deserves credit for that.
yeah, I'd say more like revenue sharing, like make sure that like the small market he's getting more money influx to them. Like it's not his fault that they didn't spend the money most of the time.
That's
But
yeah, that's good. Well, that's the type of thing that's good for the owners. It's how great is it for the league if like the Pirates owners pocketing tens of millions of dollars to and refuse to pay players still. That if anything, that made the game worse because now the Dodgers just hoard up all the players. Teams like the Pirates aren't even trying to compete.
yeah,
So
yeah, it's like for me, it's like there's a complicated legacy there. Like, but as soon as he goes in, they all should be going in with him. It's like he
yes,
rode the 98 stair like home run chase basically like on his back to basically bring the game back. And like I understand why they didn't bother because like okay, like people are
yeah,
watching. This is exciting. We just came off a strike. We need to get people interested in this game again. Like I get it, but once
100%.
once you do that here, and I think
No,
also I think the A-Rod saga with the you know. I think the thing was interesting about this also is like he sort of like points out like that year he's off the game and he's away. He can't go to spring training. He can't go to Yankee Stadium. He's forced to, watch at home as his teammates are trying to win without him. Like that sort of gave him the sense of clarity. Okay, like what does my life look like with there's not baseball in it? It sort of like made him come back in 15, appreciate the game more, and appreciate like his position in life more. I thought that was a very unique perspective from him.
yeah, I agree. I thought that was a great way to like bring up that season or yeah, that season because I loved that season. Everyone loved that comeback season. It was just really nice way for him to end his career because it kind of showed, it's not going to prove anything. Like it doesn't, but like it was nice. I mean, you would like to think he wasn't taking steroids that year, and he was 40, and he'd come back from so much. So that was such a fun year, and yeah, I'm sure he had a lot of time to reflect because he wasn't allowed to play. So I think he even said it like he'll one day look back at that year of suspension as the best thing that ever happened to him.
Yeah, plus, I mean, he mentions too, like with the whole youth movement in 16, like when the Yankees are rebuilding, they're like, okay, like we're not going to play you much anymore. If you want to like
Yeah.
step away, that's fine. Like he says, like prior to like that year off, like he would have been pissed. Like, okay, like 696, give me like a month to hit 4 homers so I can get to 700.
Yeah.
But he says, like,
Yeah.
A-Rod would have kept playing. Alex was okay retiring at that point. So I think that's a sign of like maturity there.
Yeah, I love the line you said. He said A-Rod would be playing still, basically. Um, and I never thought of that perspective where, he retired. I forgot he retired in the middle of the season like that. But I don't think at the time I realized that probably was a tough pill for him to swallow because I think the mindset was, well, he knew he was seriously declining and probably wasn't going to put up, be able to get it back. He was old and injured and so, but yeah, it was still hard because he could have hit those 4 extra home runs, and it did show a growth from him. So I'm happy. It was nice for him to recognize that and admit to that.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing I think that's worth mentioning here is like the Hall of Fame stuff. I was speculating with Joe last week, like what's his attitude to this? And I think like it's also surprised me like how he's basically come to peace with okay, like I'm not gonna be in the Hall of Fame. I should be. I will not be. I'm okay with it because like I have a lot going on in my life that is more. I think he says the line, it's just a museum, is the way I think he puts it. Which I think is a very like sophisticated outlook. I think like a lot of us would have a hard time accepting if we were in his position.
100%. Yeah, he said it like he literally said it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I respect him for because he could have also been like, I don't care. But no, we all knew we would know he was lying if he said he doesn't care. So it's nice to hear he was able to accept that and, you know, get give him some semblance of closure on it. I'm sure he holds out hope that one day, because they have all these committees,
Yeah.
which nobody understands how they work or who's eligible, but you hear like it's the most confusing thing. Like you randomly you'll hear some guy that was out of eligibility 10 years ago is now eligible again. So nobody understands how it works. I'm sure you do because you know all this stuff. But it's one of the, and then that's how who got in? Fred McGriff got in that way.
Errol
Like,
Bates got in that way. Fred McGriff, I
yeah,
think, did too.
yeah. And everyone's like, that makes no sense. And it's like a committee of like 15 people or something.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe he'll get in one day that way. I'm sure I'd be sure he has to think about it. I'd like to think he doesn't think about it actively because then that would be unhealthy. But I'm sure there's a thing in the back of his head where he's like, yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah, I think the thing with him that might benefit him is that like he's still on the writer ballot for a bit. He has to wait a little bit before it goes on that Veterans Committee ballot. So maybe like in 10 years or so, maybe the perspective on his career has evolved a little bit. Whereas like the people in there start thinking, okay, like we like the steroid thing happened. He was still one of the best players in the era. Like he should be in here in some way. Whether we maybe have some sort of evolved perspective. Like, okay, we're gonna know something on the plaque that he was like did steroids. It was
Yeah.
suspended for steroids, but like he's like and the museum. Like, have you been to the museum recently?
No, not since I was a kid.
Yeah. Because I know the museum's perspective is like I think I was there a couple of years ago, was like, okay, like the guys are in there. Like you will go in, you'll find stuff from like A-Rod bats or references to Bonds
Yeah.
and but they're not in the plaque gallery as individuals. I think that's their distinction. Like they're part of the game. We don't have to recognize them in the plaque gallery. It's sort of the way the museum looks at it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I would love for him to be in. I mean, let's be real. The Baseball Hall of Fame is by far the most impactful and um, just the most important Hall of Fame. I don't know if important is the right word, but it has the most prestige when you compare it to football or basketball. Like basketball is a weird one because it combines like international and includes college players. And I think football does the same more or less, but it's just not the same. Like I feel like being in the Baseball Hall of Fame feels like the biggest deal, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, 'cause I feel like it's the football one is like weird. Like we can only elect between three and like eight players, and one has to be a senior. There's specific rules. Like they basically make sure they have a ceremony every year. Whereas baseball, it's like okay, the writers don't want anybody this year. Nobody's in.
Yeah, I mean that rarely happens though. When was the last time that happened?
21 was the last time it happened.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because obviously
Well,
you remember 13, which is the first year the Bonds and Clemens group was on the ballot. They just made a
yeah,
statement and said we're not putting anybody in. And then the whole
right.
thing is in backlog because of that like act of
I
hypocrisy
forgot
from the
about
writers.
that. Yeah. Is A-Rod already off the ballot?
No, he's still on the ballot.
Is he because A-Rod I mean, excuse me, Clemens and Bonds wound up their last year getting relatively close, right? Didn't they get in like the 60s or something?
They were basically hovering around like 58%. That's basically as high as they ever got.
Right. Where was A-Rod last year? Can you check?
I'm going to try and look this up here. And my effort is anything else you wanted to discuss from the doc itself?
Anything else? Let's see. I really did write notes. I wasn't messing around or flexing.
Yeah.
Um, I say they try to make it. Yeah, I literally wrote down all of the all of the nicknames. I started it and then we went on a tangent on Payrod. Well,
Yeah.
here's all the nicknames and puns. Payrod. He's not okay, Rod. Go away, Rod. Stray Rod. Dump a fraud. That's just not really one. And a ban for A Rod. If it's dumb. The point was these are all they showed ways people played with his name in writing. It was just nonstop. It's like it's not that funny or creative. People really just like making fun of the A Rod name.
Yeah. I'm sure like you got A Roy on the sign at some point also, right?
So, I did. You said Aroid.
Yeah.
I actually didn't say that one, but I had it written down. And I was about to say I had one more Aroid.
Yeah. Because that one I remember. I remember the sign that they showed him like in the thing. They had the sign in the background that said Aroyd. Like, and I think it was in Boston. They had that sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I did.
What?
Yep.
God.
So I did look it up. I went to the Hall of Fame tracker. I'm going to pull it up on the YouTube version. Mike Phillips on
Yeah.
YouTube. We're share the screen here from the great Ryan Thibodeau, not Mr. Tibbs, has his ballot. This is last year's data. It was A-Rod's fourth year on the ballot. He got 37% of the vote.
Well, I can't see the numbers on my screen. It's a little small, but
Yeah.
what did he get the first couple of years?
I can go back here. 24, he got 34.8%. 23, he
Wait, so what
got
was it the last year? I'm sorry. 34.87%, 24. And what was it in 25? I'm trying to figure out if there's an upswing.
37. He
Down.
went 37
Oh,
too. He went slightly
okay.
up.
So he's slightly up.
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it's 10 years you stay on?
You get 10 years on the writer's ballot.
I mean, at least he's trending up. So maybe there's some hope. Once I think if you release that clip of me campaigning for him, his
Yeah.
numbers will surge to 70% overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, the ballot just started for this year. So like there's not much data out yet. So I keep a track on that because usually it's like the public data you get is about like 10% higher usually
Yeah.
than like what the final totals end up being because there's a bunch of like older writers who won't share their ballot who tend to vote for less people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, because I was looking at to see there's only two public ballots out right now, and like the only
Yeah.
and he has not gotten a vote on either of those two ballots.
Got it.
Yeah,
Well, that's a shame.
yeah.
My favorite is when like writers release a terrible ballot and like they get publicly shamed for it. Like that, or like, do you remember that? That happened with the, I think someone said they weren't voting for Jeter or Mariano and people just shit on them relentlessly. So they changed their vote because they hadn't submitted it yet. Do you remember that?
I think it was like somebody said they were going to, and it might have been Mariano because like it's like he's the only unanimous Hall of Fame inductee, and maybe
Right.
someone was like saying, "I'm not going to do it," and then he got like roasted, and then they changed his mind.
Yeah, I love that. Like, yeah, you should be ashamed and you should change your mind and you should quit and give up your ballot, to be honest. But at least he changed his mind. I give him credit. It's hard to admit when you're wrong sometimes.
Yeah, because
Um,
the thing I don't understand with some of these voters is like the whole like, oh, like Babe Ruth wasn't then unanimous, so I'm nobody's a unanimous. I'm like
yes,
why are you doing this then?
right. That they're basically saying so people made mistakes in the past, so now we owe it to the person that was punished by that mistake to make sure their predecessors also get the brunt of our mistake. It's not fair if we don't make the same mistake. It's ridiculously dumb logic.
To me, it's like I feel like if you have this ballot for a public thing like the Hall of Fame, like you should be required to release it and own it. Like
100%.
the one guy who didn't vote for Derek Jeter like should be forced to like own that.
Yeah, there's literally no benefit to keeping it. Well, I guess you could say if you anonymize it, people can't be no, you could be bought off because people know who submits ballots. So what do you think you're going to get threatened? Or, like I don't know. That's just ridiculous. I think it's bullshit. All these and MVP votes or MV I think MVP votes are the same. They're anonymous technically, right?
I think so because I know with the writers that with those ballots they kind of like rotate like what the writers association rotates who votes for what awards. You're not voting for the same thing every year.
Right. It's actually shocking how little transparency there is in that process because I mean, in theory, people could be now with gambling on MVPs and stuff, like voters can be bought, and then because and a voter can impact a MVP vote, which people can bet on. And now we're getting to a whole other thing. But imagine like someone tells you vote, get a couple of guys to vote for, like let's say the Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen MVP case, like last year, which was very close. Nobody really knew who was going to win. You pay off a couple of voters to vote for Josh Allen and hammer those odds. You just stole an MVP. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's going to happen at some point if we're being honest, if it hasn't happened already.
Yeah, I think so. Any final thoughts on the A-Rod doc?
Went way off topic on
Yeah,
that. Last thing is I literally wrote down at the end, I loved when he said he's done saying I'm sorry.
yeah,
And like, I don't care. Like, there's going to be people that watch this and hate me anyway. Those are haters. He wasn't saying in an annoying way, like, F my haters. He was just saying, I made the mistakes. I'm owning up to it and I'm going to move on. So if you don't want to move on, I can't change you. God bless. I really respected that. That's
yeah,
hard to get to.
yeah. It's a very mature take. Sort of like, okay, like I am who I am. I've made peace with myself. I don't care what you guys think. You can believe me or you don't. But clearly, people like are into this story because HBO wanted to do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
It'll be interesting to see what people think of it. I want to read the reactions. I'm sure there's going to be, like he said, there's going to be people that say, "Oh, what a phony, what a fake." So, but I think a lot of people will come out liking it, liking him.
yeah. I think the barrier people is gonna like have to be convinced to watch it because it's a people like I don't
Yes.
like A Ride and he's phony, and then they say okay.
Yep.
There's also a lot going on this time of year where it's the holidays, there's a lot of sports, there's a lot of like office parties and so on. But, like if you can find the time to like go on Max or HBO Max, whatever it's called these days, and just pop on the 3 episodes. Like the first one's a little slower, but the other two really are interesting.
Agreed. I agree. It's that there will be that barrier where people say, "Oh yeah, Aaron, not my favorite guy. I'm not going to watch it." But even if you don't like him, like it's worth just the. I mean, he's an amazing player. Like no matter if you hated him, you can't deny he was an amazing player. And just learning more about who he was, how he grew up, what led him to be how he was, and who he is fascinating alone. That element alone is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather watch this than watch the 7 episodes of Derek Jeter just talking about how great he is.
I didn't. I'm ashamed to admit, as the Yankee fan, I did not watch the Derek Jeter one. I will eventually, but yeah, I was like, I don't, I'm not that compelled to watch out right now. Nothing against Jeter, I love him. He's an all-time great, but you know, it's well, you don't need 7 episodes for that.
No, they basically like it's a lot of like Jeter is the greatest thing since sliced bread was basically the take of that documentary and it was a lot of there was a lot of dunking on A-Rod in that doc also. So like because like really I think the bad guys in the doc were like A-Rod was sort of like basically the whipping boy of that documentary.
Oh, geez, I didn't know that. I mean, clearly they're still cordial because Jeter was on this doc,
I
and
mean I think their relationship improved since that was filmed.
okay,
This was filmed in 20 this came out in 22.
okay. Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't realize it took that long for them to repair their relationship. Because I mean, they've been on that show together for a little while. Not that that means they're best friends, but like, I mean, who knows? Maybe they still can't stand each other. That would actually be pretty funny.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they're fine. I think they're like, I'd say they're
Yeah.
probably more like work friends than like they're not like going like having dinner with each other like once a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day they'll get there and we'll get the invite and we'll interview them jointly and say, "How's the dinner,
Yeah.
boys?"
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like that situation, I do think it's interesting that like the Jeter doc itself like was a lot more like, oh, like I'm the greatest, like one of the greatest things ever of all time, and like how like he had some stuff in there, but like he got glossed over a lot of his flaws, whereas A-Rod like openly like discussed them in front of us, which was nice.
Yeah, that is nice. I mean, yeah, I think I said this at the beginning, but to be fair to Jeter, A-Rod had a lot more mistakes and flaws, for lack of a better term, to own up to. I'm sure Jeter wasn't perfect, but he didn't have the like scandal after scandal and the steroids, which people care about, and then the lying like about the steroids. So there wasn't as much faults for Jeter to own up to.
It was like more A-Rod was like sort of the more candid like Michael Jordan in Last Dance kind of like
Yes,
style.
agreed.
Yeah.
I agree. It felt, yeah, MJ was great, but like it was kind of like congratulatory to him as well. But it's still such a cool era that it was still entertaining.
And he also was not afraid to like, like say, "Oh yeah, I got pissed about this. I did this. I did that." And like I think like that helped with the Jordan one. Like the Jeter one was very much like if I remember, I cover all the other pod. Like it was
Yeah,
released over like I'll say a month or so, and it was like there were so many like episodes of like, "Oh, I did this," or like this is why like I'm so great, and like I think they talked about the only really negative talk was '04 because they had to, and then nothing else really sort of stood out.
exactly. I agree. I agree.
All right, Justin, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. If people want to keep up with you on social media, how can I do that?
They can follow me Instagram or TikTok. It's JD Comedy. I think it's underscore JD Comedy underscore. Yeah, that's exactly it. But if you search JD Comedy, you should be able to find me. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the shout out.